everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know, which is Demonologists versus Exorcists, what's the difference? Now, a big thank you to the person who sent this question in quite a while ago. Apologies, it's been very, very hectic late here at Access Paranormal headquarters, but thank you for your patience as well. It's a really interesting topic because obviously it's the D word, and that obviously gets a lot of people's attention regarding this, something as heavy as this, but also at the same time it ties in well because I've actually, thank you, as actually I'm doing an introduction to demonology course as well, so it's kind of tied in quite well with that too. Hi Damo, hi Rob, how's good to see you. So yeah, there is a difference. Now you would probably think, well yeah, of course there's a difference, but not a lot of people in the paranormal or investigators really know the distinct difference between an exorcist and a demonologist, and there are quite distinct as well. So hi Kaz. So firstly what I'll do is we'll go briefly into what an exorcist does and a demonologist does, and then just obviously look at the complete differences, and also maybe where there's confusion of the similarities as well. And I'll post, I guess you could say, I'll pose a question afterwards as well. And again, love your comments, always love your comments on these, even on YouTube as well as on Facebook too, of your thoughts on something like this. So yeah, I'll have a question towards the end instead of kind of giving my thoughts, because I'd be really interested to find out what your thoughts are on this particular topic too. So firstly, we'll talk about what a demonologist does, or demonology as it is. It's actually where somebody has kind of like an encyclopedic knowledge of demons. It's like this innate knowledge of all the multidisciplinary sort of style of demons, or from where they're from. It's eclectic, it's huge. There's not just a few demons, there are hundreds and hundreds of different types of demons. Again, we talk about this, or I'm talking about this from a point of view that if there was an afterlife, if there is such thing as demonic entities and ghosts and all this sort of stuff, if there was such a thing, this is what we'd be talking about, because again, of course, demons haven't been proven by science, let alone also with ghosts. So we're coming in from an angle of, all right, well, if they did exist, there are people who study the mythology and people who perform exorcisms, what would be going on? Yeah, hi Kat, good to see you, lovely. So of course, people who study demonology have to have a really good skill set with research, very, very research driven. They need to have a very good understanding of old writings, old texts. You know, there's a book called Demonology, but it's GIE, which is one of the first manuals of all the different types of demons. So if you want to see if you can try and do a Google search on that at some point, really, really handy. It's like, again, like a bit of an encyclopedia and an explanation of it. Also, with demonologists, they need to have a really good etymology. I always get this word mixed up. Etymology. But what it basically means is, Beth can't talk. What it basically means is the fact that it's the way in which a word has been created. So it's, you know, has it got a Germanic meaning to it? Has it got you know, sort of a Latin background to it? You know, lots of these myths. I mean, demonology and demons has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's not just something recent. And they've all come from all different parts and different theories and different ones all around the world. So, you know, how did that demon come up, or have that name? And obviously a really good demonologist would actually be able to look at a name and go, look, that's a Latin one, so that must be more derived towards the, you know, Roman Catholic sort of side of it, or and all that kind of stuff. So even apart from the fact that I can't even pronounce the damn name, but so yeah, so that's another thing. So it's not just having a knowledge of all the different types of demons, it's why they got there, how they got there as well, which is a really good demonologist should have that information as well. Now, I know that often there can be people who feel they have something demonic in their home, or someone may feel that they have something demonic in their place of work, or be chased by one, or feel like they're being harassed by one. If there is anybody that comes forward and says, well, you know, I think it is demonic because it's something negative, you know, there's sulfur and the person's being attacked, we should be kind of challenging that a little bit, because if that's true demonology, then we need to know a couple of things about the fact how they've come to that conclusion. So it's something like, well, what classification does this demon, you know, fall into? You know, what are the linguistic options, what were the, what were the origins of this particular entity? Also, is there any sort of medical origins from it? So what diseases does this particular demon cause? Like if it's someone's constantly feeling sick, well, is it a demon that's associated with making people sick? Because there are certain demons that do that as well. What are the stories and legends behind this particular demon that you feel is harassing this particular person? So there's so many different layers to it, instead of just going, well, I think they've got a demonic entity. Well, which one? Which one? So we have the right to be able to try and find that information out, and a really good demonologist will be able to find that information out if they deem something like that. So then, of course, there is exorcists, or people who perform exorcisms. Obviously, most of us know a fair bit about that. It's someone who's ordained by the church, if it's Christianity or Catholic Church, and they are there to help drive the entity away from the person or out of the person. It's actually, the word demon is also Greek as well. So it's actually demon and demonology generally, really, the very, very origins of it actually started in ancient Greece. So it's not actually necessary just from a Christian perspective. It actually originally had started from there, because the word daemon is Greek, and also exorcism or exorcist, which is exorkizos or exorkizis, I think it is. Correct pronunciation. Seem to be having a great evening with that. And that means to drive out, to out oath, I think is what the actual literal meaning is, but is to drive out. And the purpose is to drive the demon out of the person and bind them to something. So, we've seen movies like, I cast thee out. Well, out's great, but out's got to go somewhere. And there's a reason behind that. And that is because if you were to drive a demon out of somebody, or a negative entity, demonic entity out of somebody, if it's not bound to something, it will go to somebody else. So it's kind of like a safety mechanism in that way. That's the thought process behind it. So often you'll find with exorcists or exorcisms, they will actually make sure that everybody who ever attends them is 100% behind the faith of that particular exorcism that's been happening, because a demonic entity can actually attach itself to the next person, which is quite weak. So that's why, there's another one of the many reasons why it's very, very rare for anyone to ever witness or be a part of an exorcism, because of that one of those particular reasons. There's many others, of course, but that's probably another I want to know. So that's another thing as well. I said that they're people that are ordained by the church. They perform it's deliverance when it's Protestant faith, but there's all different types of demons. Like I mentioned before, there's the jinn. In Hindu, there's Buddhist as well. Buddhist faiths also believe in demonic entities as well, and have a very, very set way according to their faith in driving it out. So exorcisms are particularly just on the Christian and Catholic faith as well. References for possession and exorcisms go back, I think probably like the 2nd century, I think is the earliest sort of recorded information about it. So it's not something that's happened in the last couple of hundred years, or maybe since the witch trials or anything like that. It's actually happened much, much, much further, much earlier than that as well. So, of course, if somebody was to want to be an exorcist, they would obviously have to go to the church or the healer or the priest of that particular faith. When it comes to the Catholic religion, it's called the Ritual Romanium, I think it is, and that is it's kind of like the priest's service manual, if you want to call it like that. And that is, it's not this is what you have to do, tap your foot 3 times and say this. It's actually more of a guide saying, look, if this happens, this is what you kind of do. So it's not like a written in stone thing. It's actually just like, this is a guide and guidelines on how to deal with performing an exorcism. Sorry. And I think the first printing of that was only in around 1600. So it's not something that's been around for a long, long time, but around the 1600s when they actually decided to print a full copy out of it and have it for people who were performing exorcisms. Now, of course, this is an interesting conundrum I thought of recently as well. And with regards to this particular topic is there are many people, as you can see, will think that demonologists and exorcists, obviously, they are very different. So one's a walking encyclopedia, the other one's doing the work and removing the entity. But there are people that will claim to be both. So I know that I think Johnny Zaffis is a demonologist, but I don't think he's publicly claimed that he does exorcisms, so we have to, sort of have to double check with that one, of course. But there's this misconception, the fact that if you're a demonologist, that's what you do. You go, cast the out, and it's actually not the case at all. It is literally just a walking library. And a researcher and someone who does exorcisms is somebody who's on a very different angle as well. So my question to you guys is, should you be both, or should you keep it separate? So should somebody be a demonologist and also perform exorcisms, or should it be encouraged that a person can actually combine the knowledge of and also perform them as well? I'd be interested to know your thoughts. I've got my thoughts on it, but instead of sort of front loading you guys a little bit, I thought it'd be interesting to find out what your thoughts are on that too. So use the comment section down below as usual, because I love to know your thoughts. Exorcisms have to be ordained. Yes, well, they are. Exorcisms generally have to be ordained. You're right, Kat. Again, as I said, if it's the strict Catholic following of that, a person has to be ordained as well by the church or someone from the church. I know of other people who have done or have claimed to have done exorcisms, haven't been traditionally ordained by the Catholic Church, but then again their faith was Protestant, so it was more deliverance, which is what the other term is for, as I mentioned before. So again, it's part and partial, but traditionally, yes, they should have to be ordained as well. But anyway, lovely people, let me know your thoughts. Do you think someone should be both? Do you think it should be separate? I'd love to know what you think. And use the comment section below, and I'll be replying to everybody. And thanks again so much for watching. Take care.